Intro voiceover. Welcome to Daily Scary Tales, where nightmares come to life. Hit subscribe and share the horror with your friends, if they're brave enough. Spooky ambient music intensifies as the story begins. Imagine this. You've just signed the dotted line on what you think is your dream home. A picturesque house at the end of a quiet lane, framed by century-old oak trees, dripping with character and history. But the history, the history, isn't exactly the kind that makes it onto greeting cards. It's the kind of history that lingers in the shadows, hides in the walls, and waits for someone like you to stir it awake. This is the house that waits, and it's a story you'll never forget. Before I unpack all its horrors, ask yourself, what would make you leave your forever home barely a week after moving in? What would terrify you so deeply that you'd abandon everything you've worked for? That was my reality. It all began on a chilly autumn afternoon. The realtor handed me the keys, her smile a little too forced, her eyes darting toward the empty house like it held a secret she couldn't wait to unburden. As I stepped inside, the air felt heavier, not cold, but as if something unseen pressed against my chest. Still, I chalked it up to the age of the house. It was old, after all. And old houses, they have character, right? The first night was uneventful, or so it seemed. I was dead tired from unpacking and fell asleep almost immediately. But I woke up just as quickly. A noise, soft, almost imperceptible, like someone dragging something across the floor. My first thought, the pipes. Old house, old plumbing. Makes sense, doesn't it? But then it happened again and again. By the third time, I was out of bed, tiptoeing down the hallway with my phone's flashlight guiding the way. The sound led me to the dining room. There was nothing, no visual evidence of anything out of the ordinary. That's when I noticed something peculiar. The antique dining table, part of the staging furniture I hadn't moved yet, was no longer centered beneath the chandelier. It had shifted, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. I shoved it back into place and headed straight back to bed, dismissing it entirely as my own fatigue playing tricks on me. The second night, the noises came back. Louder, more insistent. This time it wasn't random. It was rhythmic, like tapping, tap, 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 always in threes, always in patterns. If you've ever read about hauntings, you'll know that's not exactly a great sign. This time, the tapping led me to the basement. My heart raced as I descended those creaky old stairs, the air growing colder with each step I took. And then I saw it. Something that made my very blood run cold. One of the basement walls had a large crack running through it, but that wasn't what scared me. Inside the crack, something seemed to be moving. It wasn't an insect or a mouse. No, it almost looked like human hair. But that's impossible, right? Hair doesn't just grow out of walls. Feeling nauseous, I backed out and slammed the door shut, telling myself I'd figure it out in the morning. Morning came. And with it, a strange discovery. Pieces of shattered glass were on the kitchen counter. Not on the floor where they might have fallen, mind you. On the counter, perfectly arranged into a circle. A circle that encased what looked like ash. Cautiously, I scooped up the fragments and tossed them in the trash. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the house was deliberately antagonizing me, pushing me toward something. Something I hadn't yet understood. By the third night, the tension was palpable. The entire house seemed alive with noise, squeaks, groans, even whispers. Yes, whispers. I could barely understand them, but they were there. And then the lights began flickering. Not randomly, strategically, guiding me, leading me to the one room I hadn't dared enter since moving, the attic. Armed with a flashlight and every ounce of courage I could muster, I pushed open the attic door, and as it creaked open, the overwhelming smell of decay hit me like a freight truck. Inside, the shadows seemed darker, more oppressive. My flashlight danced over cobweb-covered boxes and furniture draped in dusty sheets. And there, in the center of the room, was a chair, a rocking chair, slowly rocking by itself. I froze. Was it the wind? That's when I saw it, faint, but clear enough to understand. Scratched into the floorboards near the rocking chair were the words, "Help me." That was it. That was my breaking point. I grabbed my phone, dialed every friend and family member who might believe me. But nobody answered. Worse, the phone died mid-call despite being fully charged moments earlier. I raced out of the attic, my pulse pounding through my ears. Back in the living room, I stopped dead in my tracks. The dining room table was now completely flipped over. In the center of the room stood a figure, but this was no ordinary shadow. It was dark, but not empty. It had depth, like it absorbed the light around it. My chest tightened as it began to move toward me. My fight-or-flight instincts kicked in, and I bolted. I didn't stop until I was out of the house, sitting breathless on the curb in the dead of night. I didn't go back. I couldn't, not even for my belongings. The house? It's still there, waiting for someone else, for someone naive enough to open the door and breathe life into its waiting darkness. So the question is, would you dare move in? And if you did, how long would you last? Outro voiceover. Thanks for watching Daily Scary Tales. If you liked this chilling story, or if it made your skin crawl, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Turn on notifications for more horrifying tales delivered straight to your nightmares.